I'm talking about. Good to have you here. Listen, guys, it's another great day. We're talking about something that from time to time, we have to have conversations about because it's one of the things that I think people struggle with the most, and that is triggers. Like, I'm still struggling with these triggers. It's been 3 months, it's been 6 months, it's been 9 months, it's been a year, it's been 2 years. Why am I still struggling the way that I'm struggling? So, we're going to have that conversation today. But listen, before we get started, I want to make sure that you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Let the world know that we are on live so that other people can get this goodness that you're getting every single morning. Last Chance Weekend's coming up in March. Make sure you register for that. It'll be March 10th through the 12th. It's going to be incredible. Also, foundations, if you haven't signed up yet, give it a try. It's a $1 trial for 15 days, and then you could decide from that point whether you want to engage. And listen, since I got you here, I might as well brag on you a little bit. There was a testimonial that came in. I have to say how blessed my wife and I were to have had Lakeisha as our practitioner. Lakeisha was amazing and very down to earth. Her wisdom, her patience, her knowledge and understanding was the key to guiding us on our journey in restoring our 30 years of marriage. My wife and I are forever grateful to Lakeisha in Couples Academy and recommend it to any couple looking to save their marriage, and that is from DC in New York. Phenomenal job, Lakeisha. It's always good to hear testimonials of people who have, it's not about you, but it's about what you've done for them. And you can see their transformation through how God has used you as a vessel.
Can I just say, he was so hard. Like, he was so tough. This dude, like, has a street background. Like, he was just so hard and resistant and, like, pushing back against me. And to see on the other side of that, of him being softer with his wife and really, like, giving her that romance that she's been asking for, and them just having this newfound, rekindled, refreshed relationship. Like, I'm like all emotional right now. Like, I'm trying to control myself. But anyway, they do the work. You know, we're there. I always say we're the driver, Sasani, but they're the GPS, right? They're telling us where they're gonna go in that first session when we set goals. What is it that you want? That's the first question. So when you tell me that this is what you want, I'm like, all right, let's get it. Those are your words, Sasani. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's get it done. Buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
That's right. That's right. And if you're committed to the process, you will get to the final destination. But I think what you said is critically important. Like, you've got to know where you want to go before you take the ride. You don't just get in a car and just start driving, because you never know where you're going to wind up. And I think that's what's happening. A lot of times people don't have clarity on what it is that they actually want. They know more about what they don't want than what they do want.
Yes. That's for sure. A lot of times that is the response. You know, when I ask, what do you want? It's, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to feel this hurt and pain anymore. And perfect timing for our topic today. I don't want to be triggered anymore. Right. So what do I need to do to stop the hemorrhaging? That's what they want to know.
So let's talk about this this topic of triggers. I mean, we've definitely talked about this, but it's one of those things you got to continue to talk about. Trigger. Let's clarify what the trigger is, because I think most people have formed their own definition, have their own interpretation, and are missing it. The trigger isn't the smell, the date, the restaurant, the exit on the highway, the commercial. The trigger isn't anything that you can point to, right? The trigger is the emotional reaction to those things. So when people say, I'm triggered, right, right, you are triggered by the external stimulus, situation, circumstance, whatever it is. And so if we don't understand that we own and we carry and we create the trigger, then we will miss it, because we will have this false belief that we'll have these triggers for the rest of our lives. Well, here's the fact of the matter. 95, that exit 12, that's the road that leads to such and such's house.
Mhm.
Exit 12 will always be there. When
Right.
I die, exit 12 will be there. My
Yes.
children's children will always pass by exit 12. There's nothing
Mm.
I can do to change that. That song, it will exist in perpetuity for eternity. The song is not going anywhere. The color
Mhm.
blue, the smell of none of that's going anywhere. So if the belief and the hope and the wish and the want is that these things go away, then we've missed it. What needs to happen is we need to begin to have a proper management of our thoughts and
Yeah.
of our feelings or emotional reactions to these particular things, because what once triggered you, if you do the work, you'll get to the point where it no longer triggers you. Is that right, Lakeisha?
That's absolutely right. And you know what it really truly is about too, Hassani? Everything that you said, but it's about taking back your power.
Mm,
Like many, many times, I think with the betrayed and even the betrayers, because they get triggered too, right? But I think it's they come off as if they have this feeling of powerlessness
mm.
and that they have no ability to control exactly what you're saying, which are their thoughts and their emotions, and most importantly, their reactions. Because a lot of times we can't control like what pops into our mind. We can't control what our eyes see sometimes, right? And we can't always control again the emotional response that we have to that external stimuli. But what we absolutely 100% without a shadow of a doubt can control are our actions and how we respond. And when we're working with couples, when they're in that dark place, and you know what I'm talking about, when they're in that dark place, they say, I can't control it. There's nothing I can do. I'm so emotional. I'm so hurt. There's so much pain. I can't control it. Yes, you can.
Oh, absolutely. You
Yes,
know,
you can.
Lakeisha, there was a couple years ago, I did a private marriage intensive with, and the husband had no, I'm sorry, the wife had an affair, and she would frequent Bennigan's. I think that was the name of the restaurant, or Houlihan's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, they come from a town where there's not a whole lot of restaurants, and that was their place of choice. And so the husband made an internal vow within himself that he would never set foot in that restaurant ever again. And every time he drove down the street, he was triggered by the restaurant. In fact, he rather get off the highway and exit ahead of time and
Right.
avoid the road that passed by the restaurant so that he wouldn't be triggered. And so really the restaurant had so much power over him, so much control over him. And so he
Mm-hmm.
was trying to figure out, what do I need to do to overcome this thing? I said, well, listen, tomorrow I want you to get off on the exit where the restaurant is, and I want you to drive past the restaurant. What do you mean, Asani? I can't do. I said, no. That's what I want you to do. So he does it, right? And I said, well, how did that make you feel? Oh my God, he almost crashed. He was triggered. He was emotional. I said,
Mm-hmm.
all right, tomorrow I want you to do it again, but this time, wherever the restaurant is, if it's on the left side of the road, I want you to pull over on the right side of the road and just sit there for 30 seconds. And I need you to sit in it. I need you to sit in the feeling, in the thought, in the emotion. And then I want you to get back on the road and then keep going. He did it. A couple days later, I said, listen, I want you to go back to that exit and drive down that road and now sit in the parking lot where the restaurant is. I want you to do this now, and I want you to do it for 5 minutes, and I want you to feel and experience what it is that you're dealing with. And so he did it. And then a week later, I said, now I want you to go to the restaurant. I don't want you to sit down, but I want you to walk in the restaurant and just go to the area where the maitre d' is, or where the host is, and just look around and just feel the experience. And he did it. And then the next time, I want you to go back with your wife, and I want you to sit down at a booth, and I want you to order water and bread. That's all I want you to do. You don't even have to eat a meal, but I want you in that place, in that space, because I want you to what I'm wanting you to do is you're reassociating a different memory and a different experience with the very thing that triggers you. And they did it. And then the next time, they ordered an appetizer, and then the next time they ordered a meal. And I said, look how far you've come. At one point, you couldn't even get off the exit and pass by the restaurant. And now you're eating apps and drinks and smiling and laughing and having a date night with your spouse in the very restaurant. So the point is, you can't avoid, you have to hit it head on. If you're going to overcome that thing, listen, you got to confront it. You've got to deal with it. You've got to go through a process, because when you live life by avoidance, you're giving, to your point, something or someone else power over you, and you remain a slave. And the fact of the matter is, many of you are slaves to situations and circumstances, slaves to people, slaves to inanimate objects, because you've voluntarily given up your power, and it's time to take it back.
Absolutely. And Hassani, okay, who's got the psychology degree over here? Me or you? You over here exposing the people to some exposure therapy. That's what it is. That's what you're talking about. It's exposure therapy. And you do it in increments, right? Just like you said, like that's perfection, is that you take baby steps. Sometimes it's infant steps, sometimes it's fetus steps, but you take these small steps of exposing yourself to the very thing that is causing you the anxiety or causing you the fear or causing you to be triggered. And you just gradually over time reintroduce more things, because it is about taking back your power. Do you want to be in a position where the external environment controls and dictates your mood, controls how you're going to interact with your spouse, how your day is going to go? Like, you have the ability to control that. And so that's why, again, it's important for you to reach out and get help, because this is not a process that you can do by yourself. What Hassani, you took that client through is something that we all, I think, take our clients through when they're talking about these triggers. And it's important for you to be able to overcome them. There is action that is required behind the faith. Faith without works is dead, right? So we got to have faith that we can overcome, but then we have to apply something. We have to do something to be able to make sure that we actually are overcoming these triggers.
But the challenge is, I'm not ready for that work. I'm not ready to go there yet. I need more time. And so I get it, because it's uncomfortable. And this is why we say you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Uncomfortable.
because as long as you remain in your comfort zone, you're not growing, you're not stretching. And what you're doing is you're signing up for more of the same: more pain, more heartache, more triggers, more trust issues. And so really the power's in your hands. And truth be told, let's just have a real conversation. The expectation of the betrayed spouse is that the former unfaithful spouse has to do all the work. When
Yes.
he gets himself together, when she figures herself out, then I'll feel, then I'll
Mhm.
be. And that is a lie from the pit of hell.
Yes, it
They
is.
have their role to play, but it does not exonerate you from doing the work that you have to do.
Well, part of that is how we end up in these predicaments in the first place, right? Is that we are in this vicious cycle of, when you do, I'll do. And one of the things that we talked about many, many times with couples as it pertains to love and respect, that men require respect as much as women require love. And what do? We get in these marriages and we say, well, when he loves me the way I want to be loved, then I'll respect him. Well, when she respects me, then I'll love her the way I want to be loved. But it doesn't work that way. Just like with your recovery process, you cannot be looking to the left or the right and trying to evaluate and assess what your partner's doing, because it's not about them. It's about you and you getting out of your brokenness. So what happens, Hassani, when you have the one spouse who's doing the work, doing what they need to do, right? And the other one's not. That one spouse gets healed. They're restored. I mean, they are in a good place. They're healthy. And then they look over trying to get you to, hey, now let's move forward together, but you're still way down there and stuck in the pit because you haven't been doing the work. So now you're the one that's holding up the progress. So I don't want to be that one that's holding us back or preventing us from being able to walk into the fullness of whatever God has for my relationship. So that means I have to be doing my individual work while my spouse is doing his individual work. And truth moment, my husband literally said, I'm getting healthy. I can no longer focus on you, wait for you to make up your mind that you want to get healthy too. So I'm
Mm,
going to go over here and I'm going to do what I need to do to get healthy,
mm,
and I will pray for you.
mm.
I'm still here. I got you. I'm not leaving you, but I have to focus on me getting well. Otherwise, I am going to die. and I want to live. So you have to make a decision that you don't want to die and that you want to live, and you have to do the work that you need to do. But I got to go over here and I got to take care of me and make sure that I am the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And when that happened, that did motivate me to get up off my behind, stop making excuses, stop
Mm.
waiting on him, looking at him, trying to see what he's doing, and focus on myself.
When he first said it, though, because I want to go
Oh, I
somewhere with
wanted to
this.
cut him. I wanted to scratch his eyes out, Hassani. You know, the pop off spirit, she popped up. Like I wanted to go in. But the God in me was like,
Mm,
you tripping. That's the truth. You're tripping. You need to receive what he's saying because he's about my business.
mm.
My husband went about doing his father's business. So if you want to get mad with somebody, if I want to get mad with somebody, it's like I got to get mad with God because he's doing what God was instructing him and leading him and guiding him to do.
And Lakeisha, this is why accountability is so critically important, because oftentimes the betrayed spouse, I don't want to hear nothing from you, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Don't come talking to me about no God. Don't come talking
Yes.
to me about reading no Bible. Don't come talking to me about doing the work, because now the work you want me to do serves you. So you want me to do the work so that you don't continue to catch the hell. So I don't trust your motive. I don't trust your intent. I just don't trust you. And so, no, the more you tell me to do it, the less I want to do it. And now I'm going to remain stuck in my space. And so this is why sometimes hearing the same message through another vessel, through another voice, really does it, right? So there's got to be accountability. There's got to
Yes.
be a community. We say this all the time. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a community to help us as adults get unstuck, to get us out of the space that we are in. And that's why a moving forward program or Foundry on Unearth, where you have other people who are going through the same experiences, can be support systems and encouragement to one another to get through this very difficult time. Listen, I want to bring up a situation. There's a couple that there was an affair, okay?
Mhm.
And when the affair took place, the wife was pregnant, okay? And so now pregnancy of the first child is
Mhm.
connected to the spouse's affair.
Mhm.
Well, here they are, fast forward, she's pregnant again. Now he is on the straight and narrow, operating in integrity, doing the things he's supposed to do. But now she's triggered and she's associating this new pregnancy with
Yes.
his former betrayal. That's now the trigger. What
Mm.
advice would you have for them? Because they're watching right now.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, people who are watching. I will say that you cannot allow your past to enter into your present, which ultimately will change the trajectory of your future. You're
Mm,
allowing your past issues, mistakes, trials, tribulations, whatever, to come in and infect something that should be a blessing and beautiful. And gosh, what a wonderful do over you get to have with a new baby, a new pregnancy, a new relationship, husband showing up, doing what he's supposed to do. Give that man space and opportunity to be able to love on you and support you in the way that you desired before. So this can totally turn into some self-sabotage, sis, if you don't allow yourself to receive the benefits that it sounds like your husband wants you to have. It's a
mm,
do-over. And again, it goes back to control, right? What are we trying to control? And you said something so beautiful, Hassani, before you brought up this scenario, is that many, many times I think what we do is, as the betrayed spouse wants to try to control. The betrayed spouse wants to try to inflict as much pain as humanly possible. They want to make you feel what they felt. That will never happen. That will never happen. And you don't have enough power and authority and expertise and opportunity to be able to inflict the level of shame, hurt, guilt, remorse, pain, whatever that the Lord can. We have got to get out of God's way and allow him to deal with our spouses and work on ourselves. You are ruining your opportunity to enjoy your pregnancy, which this may be the last one. And do you want this to be now the memory that you have of your second time around being pregnant? You get to control that.
You said something I want to go back to. Okay, I want to freeze frame what you said. You said sis, this is a do-over. Now, I want to put that in context. When we talk about perception and unpacking what perception is, if you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
currently, right now, you're looking at this pregnancy and associating it with your partner's former behavior, which is keeping you trapped in toxic emotions. But when you change the way you look at something, this is not more of the same. This is a do-over, right? Same situation. I'm pregnant with our child that we have together. I'm going to change the way I look at this. This is a do-over. This is an opportunity to do things right. This is an opportunity to create new memories. This is an opportunity where we are now coming together. He's not showing up the way he was. He's not distant. He's not a clandestine. He's not doing his own thing. When you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. And embracing this concept, maybe that's the statement that you need to say in your head again and again and again. Whenever doubt creeps in, whenever insecurity creeps in, this is a do-over and we're doing it right this time. Like just that alone, I don't know, it just naturally came out of your mouth, Lakeisha, but that's exactly what this is. And so when we a lot of times look at our past and we're triggered, and here we go again, we say to ourselves, well, here's the pattern. But you have to understand that the pattern, when you really understand pattern recognition, there's got to be 3 incidences that happen in a row that create a pattern. Because the second time it comes around, that's not a pattern yet. You're in the midst of possibly creating the pattern if it happens again. So we can't look at this as more of the same. We can't look at this and associate the same pain to this situation because you're in a different season of your relationship. You're in a different emotional space. You have a different foundation. You've gone through counseling. You're in a different place. And so you've got to detach yourself from those. A lot of times we're trapped in bad memories that consume us. And now we look at life, our present day life, through the lens of these dark moments that have happened in our past.
Yeah. And sometimes the behavior is the same, but the motive and the intent is different. So think about the person who used to take their cell phone in the bathroom to sneak in and text and talk to their affair partner. But now they're on the straight and narrow and they just take their phone in the bathroom because they're reading articles or they're looking at World Star or they're listening to music or whatever the case may be, right? They're taking the phone in there for a different. So the motive and the intent is different, even though the behavior is the same. So sometimes we have to get to the root of what the motive is and what the intent is so that we are able to shift our perspective and look at it from, through a different lens.
Lakeisha, what's World Star?
Okay, so those of you who don't know, Hassani always assumes that I know everything that's ghetto fabulous. I will say this is some hood online, some hood online craziness. Don't do it, people. Do not watch World Star. We do not endorse. Look, I have on my Couples Academy t-shirt today. We do not endorse World Star. Do not watch that. It's a bunch of clips and videos of just nonsense, Hassani.
Listen, I want to go to Jewel. Jewel says, Lakeisha really helped me overcome my triggers by redirecting my thoughts and staying positive, and not to look back on the past. And once again, another accolade for Lakeisha for what she's doing in the lives of individuals and couples. But it's true, like literally, you can break free from your past. There's something called a thought pattern. We just talked about patterns, right? Where you keep thinking the same thing again and again and again. And those thoughts that you think continually become cemented in your psyche, and they form these deeply embedded beliefs that govern how you see the world, that govern how you show up. And a lot of times these beliefs don't serve you. And you've got to give yourself permission to unearth. You got to give yourself permission to divorce yourself from these beliefs because they're not true. Like fact and feeling, they're 2 different things, right? Fiction and reality, 2 different things. And a lot of times we conjure up these thoughts in our minds and we have these imaginations that create all types of realities that are not true to life. And so this is why that individual work is so critically important. And you don't have to do this on your own. But real talk, it's a daily work. It's a daily work. I find this interesting. And I don't care what side of the offense that you may be on, you always underestimate your spouse's, is it underestimate or over? Yeah, you underestimate your spouse's ability to change. Like change, it takes time. It's not easy, right? But what you don't do the work, but you want to put all this work and just expect your spouse to just show up and change and transform. But look at you. Look at the struggle that you're having. Like if you can't figure it out, why would you expect them to just easily be able to shift lanes and to change course and to show up the right way? It's a daily work that you both have to engage in, and when you do it, healing begins to take place.
Facts, Asani. I need to put what Jay is mine said. Is there a such thing as forgiving too soon? I want to get past this. I honestly do. I don't bring up the infidelity to inflict pain on him, but rather to show him how hurt I am. I worry that not leaving the marriage shows him that I'll accept it again. Oh my gosh. Everybody can identify with this. Everybody can relate to that. And it resonates with what they're saying, Jay is mine. And so, is there a such thing as forgiving too soon? Yes, there is. However, I will say this: forgiveness is not saying that I've forgotten. It's not saying that what you did is okay. It's not saying that I'm totally healed. What it's saying is I am making a conscious decision that I am no longer going to allow this transgression to control me, my life, our marriage, our relationship. And I want to release it so that I can be in right standing with God. That's what the forgiveness is. And you are doing exactly what I'm talking about, sis. When you say, I want to inflict pain on him and I want to show him how hurt I am, that's the control. That's the negative control that you are trying to occupy. As a matter of fact, you're not trying, you are occupying the space that is reserved for God. That is God's assignment to show him, reveal to him, help him to feel, help him to see, help him to understand. That's not for you to do. That's for God. And so you got to move out of the way and let God do what only God can do.
Facts. I love the question and I love the answer. But yes, you can forgive too soon because you're forgiving out of order, meaning there are specific steps to this journey of recovery. And many people watch the show and think it's good enough. They'll read an article, they'll read a book and think it's good enough. And we're just going to, hey, came across this great article or this great episode, let's do that. And don't realize that there are things that precede that. And that doesn't work as effectively as you would think because you didn't do the necessary pre-work to get to that point. So as they say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, but you got to take the first step before you get to the 10th step. And so a lot of times in our, we were talking about this before. I think it was you and I, Lakeisha. People who it's called hysterical bonding. Like you stay in this relationship, you don't want to leave it. And so what do I need to do? I'll just forgive. Let's move on. Right. And so it's the right thing to do, but you're doing it the wrong way. You're doing it in the wrong season. You're doing it for the wrong reasons and motives. And so it's not as effective. And so at the end of the day, many of us engage in what we will call cheap forgiveness. Like there's different types of forgiveness, folks. It's cheap forgiveness, but yet and still the pain, the hatred, the contempt, the vitriol, the venom we continue to spew, the bad behavior, I'm going to punish you. Like all those things are still attached to our so-called forgiveness. It's because we haven't truly comprehensively understood and walked through the journey of forgiveness. I say journey because it's more than just a decision, something that you did on January 2nd, 2000 and such, but it's a journey. It's a posture. It's a disposition. It's an attitude. It's a heart thing. And when you understand that, that's when the change begins to come. Now, just like think about math. When you were in first grade, you learned a certain level of math. By the time you became a 12th grader, you had a higher level of math, right? So there were levels to this thing. Likewise, when it comes to forgiveness and many other things, there are levels to this thing. And you may have taken the initial step into the journey, but may not know what those other steps look like. And that's why working with somebody who can navigate you through that process can get you to a place where it is genuine, authentic, and it's evident in how you show up, how you two interact, and what your marriage ultimately looks like.
One more thing. So the motive and intent, right, is what I was talking about. So when you're considering forgiving someone who has betrayed you or forgiving someone for anything, right? The question is, are you forgiving out of fear or are you forgiving out of faith? Because if
Wow.
you are forgiving out of fear, that is not the right foundation. That is not the right motivation. That leads to that hysterical bonding that you're talking about. But if you're forgiving out of faith, then you are trusting again that that person can change. You're believing there's hope there, and you're giving space. You're creating room for God to show up and do the transformation in that person and yourself that's necessary to be able to heal and move forward.
There it is. Lakeisha says it's hard. And you're right, it is. There's nothing easy about this. There was nothing easy about the things that you accomplish in your life, whether
Mhm.
it be your career or a financial goal or a fitness goal or healing in particular areas. Like none of this is easy. And I don't think that should be the expectation, because if it is, we will throw in the towel, call it quits, give up, because it's not supposed to take all of this. Well, it's going to take all of this and a whole lot
And more.
more. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so it's you know where it's what's making it hard is this right here. When I tell you it is all mindset,
Yes.
you have to have a stronger mind, a tougher mind to get through this. Dr. King, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I love it. He talks about soft-minded men. And how soft-minded men are the reason why civilization has fallen to the degree that it's fallen to. A soft-minded man doesn't have the ability to make hard decisions, doesn't have the ability to stick through tough times, doesn't have the ability to overcome one's fear. And I mean, listen, you've got to be tough-minded, right?
Mhm.
And so we're talking about constantly tuning in, doing the work, reading the books, going to counseling sessions, and from one session to the next, it builds up a belief system in you. Many of us have strongholds or mental paradigms that are working against what we say that we want. And this is why we ask you, what is your willingness to learn? What is your willingness to change? What is your willingness to give up time, energy, money, effort, all of those things? We're talking about your teachability index. If you have a high teachability index, then the probability of your success is great. But if you have a low one, it will always seem hard for the rest of your days.
The soft-minded man always fears change. He feels security in the status quo, and he has an almost morbid fear of the new. For him, the greatest pain is the pain of a new idea.
Boom. Like, is that not one of the most powerful? The pain of a new idea.
Come on.
And so all we're doing is dropping on you new ideas that work.
Yes.
But you've
If
got to
you
be able to
want
embrace it.
something you never had, you got to be willing to do something you've never done. And that's it.
Facts. I want to go here really quick. Man, the questions are coming in. Shelby just did a last chance weekend. Good to see you, Shelby. I meant to ask while I was there, what if the in-laws are the trigger, but we don't want to push them away because of the kids? That's a very good question. So you can be triggered by people. This is what I would say. I don't know all the details or all the inner workings of what that relationship looks like. But I say this all the time. In-laws can never do what you do not allow them to do. You know, a lot of times in-laws have power over a marriage because that couple isn't aligned. I say this all the time. There's vertical relationships up and down. The vertical relationship up are the parents or the in-laws and the impact they have on the marriage. The vertical relationship down are the children and the impact that the children have to divide and get in between the parents. But none of it will work if you two are in alignment. So before you can go to the parents and before you can go to the children, you two have to have a conversation and figure out what works for you as a couple. This is why the Bible says a man should leave his father and mother, cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one. So are you one in mindset? Are you one when it comes to unity? Are you one when it comes to how you're going to function and operate as a couple? If you are truly one, then no man, even the word says this, can tear us under. So in-laws become outlaws oftentimes, but we allow that to happen. And so they don't any longer have to be the trigger if you two are on one accord. So that's step one. That's what I would encourage you to do.
That's it. And the truth is, one of us, some of us, our natural reaction based upon our Enneagram styles is to push away people who hurt us. And I think a lot of us do that, whether it's your Enneagram style or not. But sixes for sure, who are all about loyalty. If you prove yourself to be dishonest, untrustworthy, or whatever, we're done. Like, done with you. And so we can't be done with our family in that respect. So what you guys have to do is work through those issues. You have to address it. Like Asani said, you got to hit it head on. And the more you keep pushing people away, the more you find out that the network, the community, the support that you need, you will look up and there will be no one. And it takes a village to raise these children. So you want to make sure that you are not severing ties with people that maybe God has specifically assigned for your life to be able to help you through the different seasons and transitions that you're going to go through. So you just guys, you got to work through it. It's conflict resolution. And like Hassani said, getting on one accord with your spouse so that there are no more triggers.
I want to leave them with one last thing. I know, and I want you to weigh in and give them a last point. I know we're a few minutes over, but what I would say, this is a technique that we share with so many people. You know, obviously on the show, we can't guide you through it, but we give you the instruction. It's called a thought journal. And I need you to brain dump. And I need you to get all of those negative thoughts that you have about yourself, that you have about your spouse, that you have about your marriage out on paper. I need you to write down all of the triggers that you have and write it down on paper. I need you to get it all out. Because first of all, we need to properly assess what is it that we're dealing with. I'm not talking about those dominating thoughts that continue to consume your mind, that form this belief system that you've held on to. You've embodied it, right? Get them down on paper. And then I need you to read those thoughts and ask yourself, is this 100% true? Because these thoughts are forming the story that you're telling yourself. And the Bible says faith cometh by hearing and hearing. Repetition of hearing. So if you're having internal conversations with yourself and you keep hearing words of doubt, words of fear, words of he ain't gonna do right, words of he gonna do it again, words of she's just always gonna be who she is, like that becomes cemented in your psyche and you begin to accept it as fact. But the question is it 100% true? If it is 99.9% true, but not 100% true, that means there's a little bit of a lie and you've got to cancel it out. You got to cancel that thing out, and then you've got to rewrite a statement that counters the negative statement. So that when that negative statement comes, you thought shift and you redirect from the negative statement to the positive statement, and you start telling yourself that positive statement. And so just as these thoughts are consuming your mind regularly, you've got to use repetition to serve you. And you've got to feed your mind. You've got to brainwash yourself. You've got to indoctrinate your own psyche with what is true and what is factual. It was Hitler who said that a lie told 1,000 times is more powerful than the truth told once. And you have believed the lie, and that reinforces the trigger. So if you want to be anchored in truth, then you've got to feed yourself and consume it through your eyes, through your ears, out your mouth, constantly by rewriting the script and telling yourself what is true, not what is false. Lakeisha, what would you give them as a technique that can help them with their triggers?
Yeah, my biggest thing is, start off with your top 3 triggers, because I think sometimes we try to attack all the triggers at the same time. Like every single trigger we're going to work on. No, what are your top 3 that are recurring, that keep coming up no matter what? And, again, identify, like Asani said, it's not about the external stimuli. It really is about the emotions that are coming up. So being able to get in touch with the emotions that are attached to that, being able to talk through that with your partner, and then you got to categorize, is this something for me to do, for God to do, or for we to do? Because sometimes these triggers are specifically for you to deal with, you by yourself, independent of your spouse. Sometimes it is something that your spouse needs to weigh in on and they need to help you with or whatever. And sometimes it's for all 3 of you to do, you, your spouse, and Jesus, right? But you have to be able to put them in the categories in terms of what's just for you to handle. And it's all about reframing and reshaping. It's all about your state of mind, your mindset. And so depending on on what that trigger is, you may need to shift what that thought is. So if the thought coming up, the trigger coming up is that I'm not sufficient, I'm not adequate, I'm not good enough, well, then I'm going to tell you to start saying affirmations every single day, telling yourself that I am good enough, that I am worthy, I am deserving of love. So it's all about shifting your mindset. But I think I just really want to impart on you to not try to tackle them all at one time, to kind of narrow it down to your top 2 or 3 and get to the root of what's happening, figure out who needs to be involved, and then start addressing those triggers head on and work on shifting your mindset and feeding your mind, your soul, your spirit with positive things.
Well, there it is, folks. Hopefully that was something that you can hold on to. I want you to rewatch this again and again and again, because there's so many nuggets that you've heard here today that will really make a difference. Listen, if you are working with somebody, bring these things into your session. If you're not, reach out to us. We would love to work with you. We just want to get you past the pain and get you into the pleasure so you can begin to tap into your purpose. You've been watching the Couples Academy show. Hope that you've enjoyed it. Lakeisha, you do what you do, and we're grateful for you. Listen, guys, we'll see you tomorrow for another great episode as we continue on our journey to recovery. Take care.